恭请大德善听，为此法会及一切众生，请转妙法轮，教导我们如何了生脱死，离苦得乐，殊真无生。Will the Sangha with great virtue, out of compassion, for the sake of this assembly and all living beings, please turn the wonderful Dharma wheel to teach us how to live suffering and attain bliss and end birth and death, and quickly realize non-birth.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one. Namo sadanto sucetoye alahati sanmiao sanbuddhoche. 无上甚深微妙法，百千万劫难遭遇。我今见闻得受持，愿解如来真实义。Supreme and wondrous Dharma, subtle and profound, rarely is encountered, even in a billion eons. But now we see and hear it and accept it reverently. May we truly understand the Buddha's actual meaning. Namo, quelling disasters, lengthening life, Medicine Master Buddha. 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 Namo, quelling disaster, lengthening life, Medicine Master Buddha. Namo, quelling disasters, lengthening life, Medicine Master Buddha. Medicine Master does come one, Medicine Master does come one, Medicine Master does come one, Medicine Master does come one. Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, Venerable Master, and all good knowing advisors, Amitofo, welcome back to class lecture number 129. Okay, let me get today's slides. No, hold on, let me, how do I, okay, let me try again. Okay, there you go. All right. This, as usual, I'll begin by asking anyone if they have any questions. We have a slight update on the cave temple in Ipoh that's supposed to be evicted. Does anyone else have anything, or are there any questions that I have also not answered from previous weeks? Okay, Ron has a question. Mind to mind. What does the mind seal mean? Oh, okay. All right. Great. Very good question. We'll come to that towards the end, Ron. If anyone else has any questions, just unmute your microphone at any time you think appropriate, or just type into the chat box. Okay, what we're going to do today, we are going to continue on our topic on mindfulness of the Sangha, which is part of the practice of loving kindness. If you want to develop loving kindness, you develop loving kindness for yourself. But if you have problems doing that, one of the ways is to recollect or be mindful of all the good things about yourself. And if you can do that and be successful in generating loving kindness, then you will not know what depression is, or rather, it will be very, very hard to experience depression or to be caught in depression. Okay, so today we're going to continue with mindfulness of the Sangha. Last week we went through this verse. It says, now when a man is truly wise, or woman, his or her constant task will surely be this recollection of the Sangha blessed with such mighty potency. So last week I said I wanted to share the story of one of the monks and who became an arhat during the Buddha's time. So this is his story. And if you remember, his name was Venerable Bakula. So it is said in the present lifetime or in the next lifetime, he obtains an immense worldly happiness and obtains the fruits of the three vehicles. Thus, at the time of the Buddha Vipassin, the Bhikkhu Bakula, so at that time his name wasn't Bakula, offered a fruit, which was according to the commentaries, it says is a cherry plum to the Sangha. And what happened after that? Because he was very sincere, for 91 kalpas, he enjoyed happiness among gods and men. He was never sick. And today, having met the Buddha Shakyamuni, he went forth from home, destroyed his impurities, and became an arhat. So what we have is something called the avadana, or the recounting of what is it actually? It means what happens when a person gets enlightened, and then they tell people, because they recollect their past lives. When you get enlightened, that's one of the powers that you get. So it's a thing when they have this ability, they trace back their past lives, they can see cause and effect happening, and then they realize what happened to them when that caused this whole chain reaction to happen. So he said, he was explaining, he said this was a long time ago during the time of Buddha Vipassin. He said he was in a city called Bandhu Mati, and he was the owner of a hardware shop. And he had the opportunity to invite the Buddha, which was Buddha Vipassin, and the monks of the Buddha to come to his house during the rains retreat. What are the rains retreat? The rains retreat is a Theravada practice that the Buddha practiced. So it's been, this practice has been preserved all this time. So for a period of 3 months, if I'm not mistaken, 3 months, the monks and nuns don't leave the monastery where they are at, and they practice meditation, and sometimes they eat 1 meal a day, or they try to sleep sitting up, things that we do at CDTB. And let me see what else. And that's also how they measure their seniority. Usually monks or nuns will say, oh, I have 5 rain retreats. And that means and someone will say, oh, I've had 8 rain retreats, meaning that 8 is more senior than 5. So that's how they measure their seniority. In Mahayana, I am not 100% sure about other monasteries, but for example, under DRBA, we don't really practice that. But if you look at our daily, day-to-day activities at City of 10,000 Buddhas, we more or less are in permanent rains retreat. We don't have 3 months out of the year to especially do the rains retreat. We do have our chant meditation session at which is 3 weeks long, and that's really, really hardcore. I think it's the most hardcore chant session in the world, or close to. But yeah, so we don't, in Mahayana, we don't really have that rains retreating. So anyway, he was a hardware shop owner, and he invited the Buddha and the monks to his house for food. So when they came to his house and he served them food, he said no one requested anything except for one monk who was sick. So so the food was the fruit that he gave him, called a haritaki fruit, called a cherry plum. I'm not sure if it's the same thing. Was apparently for medicinal reasons. So he said, just giving. Okay, hold on. Just let me check the next slide. Okay, I don't want to repeat myself. Okay, all right. So he said for 91 kalpas after that, he enjoyed a lot of happiness, all from just giving this small fruit. And he said after his long lifespan being reborn in the heavens, he obtained a human birth. And he said that during his training as a monk, he was never, anytime there were offerings, he was always included. He never received the least of the offerings. And his lifespan was 160 years. Yeah. And throughout his lifespan as a human, he never suffered any illness. He never fell sick. Usually, if you are born a human, if you're born a human, you undergo what is known as the 8 sufferings. And one of the sufferings is falling sick. That's one of the hard cold facts or truths about life. You fall sick. But for him, he never fell sick because he gave the fruit which had medicinal value. Yeah. Okay. All right. So what was his story? Okay. Venerable Bakula, he said that there was one time, all right, let me see. This is Anomadasi Buddha. Okay, I'm a bit confused now. Okay, anyway, maybe what I had was a different story. No, it's the same. But he under the Avadana of Venerable Bakula, which if you want to find, you can find it under Bakula Thera Padana. Bakula is his name. Thera is his seniority. If you're a senior monk, you're known as Thera. And then Apadana or Avadana is the recount of his past life. So what happened was this. He said during the time, this was I think even before Vipassana Buddha. So Anomadasi Buddha. Who is Anomadasi Buddha? In the list of Buddhas that came before Shakyamuni Buddha are 27 Buddhas in this particular time frame. I'm not sure what time frame is that, but that's what I remember. So Shakyamuni Buddha, I think, is Buddha number 27 or Buddha number 28. Yeah, number 28. In that list of 27 Buddhas before Shakyamuni Buddha, Buddha number 10 was known as Anomadasi Buddha. Okay. So Anomadasi Buddha one day came to a particular place which was where Venerable Bakula was staying. In that time, he wasn't Venerable Bakula. He was like a mendicant, kind of almost like a monk. Yeah, but he wasn't following the Buddha. So he said he was staying in the Himalayas, and that means in the mountain ranges. And the mountain he was staying on was called Subita. Okay, now I get it. I get my facts clear. Buddha Anomadasi was his past life even before he gave that single fruit away. Okay, all right. Sorry about my confusion because I did these slides about 3 weeks ago, and then last week we didn't have a class, so my memory was a bit opaque. So anyway, the Buddha came to his hermitage, which was on the hill range, And he said that at his place it was like paradise. There were a lot of flowering trees. There were many wood apple trees, different kinds of trees. There were date trees, gooseberry, bottle gourds, white lotus flowers. He said there was alaka and plantain trees and all kinds of like orange trees, citron trees, even sugar cane. Normally, this kind of plants and trees, they don't grow they need different climates. But I think during that time, it was a very miraculous period. So he had all kinds of trees. And why did he have all kinds of trees? He was kind of like a medicine person. He practiced medicine at that time. So that's why he had all kinds of fruits, flowers, and medicinal plants and trees at his hermitage. So the Buddha came and he realized that the Buddha was not feeling well. He said the Buddha had some internal pain. He was able to diagnose the cause of the pain for the Buddha. And due to his I just read the slide. It says, I diagnosed him at that time without a doubt an illness has been born inside of the Buddha. Wishing to practice medicine, I, having quickly scaled a mountain, fetched all of the healing herbs. Making them into a liquid, I gave it to the best Buddha. When the great hero consumed it, quickly that illness was suppressed for the well-gone one, the great sage. Those are titles of the Buddha. And then something interesting happened. Having seen his distress relief, Anomadasi of great frame, the Buddha, after sitting on his own seat, spoke these verses to us back then. It says, this one who gave me medicine and thereby relieved my disease, I shall relate details of him. All of you listen to my words. For 100,000 eons he will delight in the world of gods. When instruments are sounded there, this one constantly will be thrilled. Coming to the world of humans, incited by his wholesome roots, 1,000 times he'll be a king who turns the wheel of law. That means a world-turning king. A world-turning king is not like a normal king. A world-turning king, also known as a Chakravartin king, unites the world. And not just the world as we know it, it also unites the different supernatural realm planes of existence, like the different continents. Some of you may know when the Buddha was born as the prince, there was a sage, no, there was not, a yogi who knew the Vedas and he knew the 32 hallmarks of a great person, and he saw that the baby Buddha, the future Buddha, as a baby possessed this 32 hallmarks. So he told the father, the king, he said, your son will either be a wheel-turning king or he will be a great teacher of gods and humans. So that was the prediction of the Buddha. So then the prediction continued. It said, in the 55th eon hence, he'll be the king named Anoma, lord of the groves of rose apples, victorious on all four sides. A wheel-turning king with great strength, possessor of the 7 gems, he will exercise sovereignty, making even the heavens shake. Whether born human or divine, he'll be one with little disease. Throwing away his possessions, he will transcend illness in the world. So not just physical disease, but the disease of samsara. Eons beyond measure from now, arising in Okaka's clan, then one whose name is Gautama will be the teacher in the world. Worthy heir to that one's Dharma, Dharma's legitimate offspring, knowing well all the defilements, he'll reach Nirvana undefiled. So what is this? He says, this person who has cured me, who has made medicine and cured me of my illness, basically the Buddha gave him a prediction of arhatship. And this is known as one of the 10 powers of a Buddha. If you do something significant, the Buddha is able to see into how that particular cause, how its effect will reverberate and affect other aspects of your life, to the extent that the Buddha can predict when you become an arhat in this case. in most sutras, the Buddha predicts Buddhahood. For example, in the Lotus Sutra, for a lot of the Buddha's disciples, the Buddha will told them that in the future, a long, long time from now, imagine like for Venerable Bakula, it was in the time between this particular Buddha and Shakyamuni Buddha when he became an Arhat, that was 17 Buddhas, that a period of 17 Buddhas. So that's a very long time. So usually, for example, like in our time frame, in the Lotus Sutra, Shakyamuni Buddha gave predictions of Buddhahood. So he will tell certain, some of the monks that are recorded, he says that in the future, there will be a Buddha named, you will become, your name will be this, and you'll become a Buddha by the name of this, and your lifespan will be this long. Yeah, so that those are predictions that only the Buddha has the ability to do. Yeah, because he has the power to see. And then, so the prediction continues, it says, burning up all his defilements, he will cross the flood of clinging. He will be the teacher's follower, the monk whose name is Bakula. So even his name, Venerable Bakula, the Buddha already knew. Having come to know all of this, Gotama, bull of the Shakyas, seated in the monks' assembly, will place him in that foremost place. So then now the voice goes back to Venerable Bakula. He said, with all the healing herbs, I serve the great hero, feeling well pleased by my own hands. I can't even start to spend the harvest of that seed well planted, that karma I did for him, well done by me so long ago. My gains were well obtained by, there's a typo, my gains were well obtained by me who saw the leader of the world. Through the remainder of that deed, I realized the deathless state. So basically he's saying something like, like you deposit a small amount of money in a bank account, but the interest that you get is so great that it says after so long, so many eons, so many lifetimes of unparalleled blessings, he has still, what do you say? He says, I can't even start to spend the harvest of that seed. So the blessings from that seed are so much that even though he enjoyed such such great blessings like a wheel turning king, he hasn't finished the blessings yet. And he says, in the vast number of eons since I did that karma back then, I've come to know no bad rebirth. That is the fruit of medicine. My defilements are now burned up. All new existence is destroyed. All defilements are exhausted. Now there will be no more rebirth. My being in the Buddha's presence was a very good thing for me. The 3 knowledges I attained, I have done what the Buddha taught. The 4 analytical modes and these 8 deliverances, the 6 special knowledges mastered, I have done what the Buddha taught. Thus indeed, Venerable Bakula Thera spoke these verses. So this was the story he recounted after he became an Arhat. Okay. At this point, I'm going to speak a bit about the technical terms that we just read. For example, the 3 knowledges, the 4 analytical modes, and the 8 deliverances, the 6 special knowledges. Does anyone have any questions so far? No? Yes? Okay. So what are the 3 knowledges? Okay, this is a bit interesting. If anyone here is interested in spiritual powers, the first one is the knowledge of past lives. So you can see with great clarity and detail all your past lives. Maybe for an Arhat, you can't see as far back as the Buddha, but what you can see is more than enough. Yeah. So what happens when you see this? You get it's wisdom, because you can actually see cause and effect in action in yourself. There's no doubt about cause and effect as well as rebirth. You have direct experience. And then the second one is the knowledge of the arising and passing away of beings according to their karma. So you see cause and effect not just for yourself, but for other people as well. Yeah. And then number 3 of the 3 knowledges is, let me see, you destroy all desire, sensual desire, the desire for continued existence, ignorance, and origination. So that's what happens when you get the 3 knowledges. And then the 4 analytical modes. Okay, this is a bit academic. Number 1, you understand all dharmas. It says when you understand all dharmas, that means every phenomena in the world, you understand all the causes, all the conditions, all the relationships between objects, and you will not make any mistakes. So you understand everything in the world, basically. You understand why things are this way, why things are that way, why leaves are green, why some places have more natural disasters than other places. There was a question Saha asked a long time ago. He said, why Iran doesn't have any Buddhism? You will know that as well. Yeah. And then when it comes to the teachings, you understand fully the principles, the meanings, and the analysis of any teachings of the Dharma. So you are never confused by what the Buddha says. You also have the ability to understand all forms of communication, all the languages. Okay. What kind of languages? Well, the languages of non-human beings, for example, like the spiritual beings, the beings in the heavens, the Asuras, the Garudas, the Kinraras, the language that that dragons speak, for example. And it's not just you understand, but you fully understand. Yeah, you are a master in those languages. You understand how animals communicate or the way that they communicate. Yeah, and the fourth one is related, because you understand languages and you understand the principles and the teachings. You are able at any time. You have the power of eloquence. You can offer. How you say? You are able to apply a principle to different situations depending on who is asking the question, and you are able to explain it in such a way that they can understand from their experience. And because of that, you have the ability to inspire others with your words. So that's really, for anyone who's interested in becoming a bodhisattva, that's a really great skill to have. Yeah. So what happens when you, who gets this when you become an arhat? You become an arhat, you get these 4 types of knowledges, or you become a bodhisattva. Yeah. And then let me see. The 8 deliverances. Okay, it is. Let me see. You achieve this when you get freedom from rebirth. So also for if you are a arhat, a practical Buddha, or if you're on the bodhisattva path and you're ended rebirth. So what do you get? Let me see. It says the perception of material form while remaining in the subtle materiality realm. What this means is you have a body. Okay, you have a physical body, but you understand all forms and the nature behind all physical realms or physical items. For example, in physics, they go down to the, I don't know the right terms, but they go down to the smallest detail that they can measure at the subatomic level, the quantum level. I think that's the right term. If anyone knows the right terms, you can let me know. And they discover, they understand and discover more and more about what makes up a physical object. So when you become an arhat, you don't need all those instruments because you understand it yourself. And then it says you develop confidence through contemplating the beautiful. Please don't ask me to explain that because I'm just a messenger at this level. It says then Number 4 is passing beyond the material plane with the idea of limitless space. One attains the plane of limitless space, the first level of the immaterial realm. The rest of this, partly because I am not able to explain in a way that makes sense. I'm just going to skip this. But if anyone is interested, I can send it to you. Okay. If anyone is interested, I can send you all the information that I have. But I think because it is hard to, how you say, it is just theory for where we are right now. So I'm making the decision not to go on with this. Okay. All right. But if anyone is interested, please let me know, and then I can share it with everyone. Maybe I'll go to the 6 special knowledges, which is a bit more fun because it says it refers to a set of supernormal powers. So spiritual powers again. You get this through meditation. Number 1 is what? Number 1 is the ability to see through walls or even move through walls. So these are psychic and magical powers. So the realm, number 1 is physical. The way you interact with physical objects change. Okay, so that's number 1. Number 2 is the divine eye, your heavenly eye, as Shufu calls it. You can see things from afar and near, and you're not blocked by physical objects in your seeing. Number 3 is the heavenly ear, and you can hear from afar. For example, you can hear what's going on in the heavens, it is said, or anywhere that you want to if you're a busybody and you want to know what's going on. Number 4 is the ability to remember one's own past lives. Okay. Number 5 is the ability to read other people's minds. You know what they are thinking about. Okay, these 5 so far are known as the mundane spiritual abilities. Why are they known as mundane spiritual abilities? Because if you meditate, okay, and you have some skill or you have some karmic seeds from your past lives, you are able to possess these 5 or some of them to various degrees. So from a Buddhist point of view, is known as mundane. Why is it known as mundane? Because number 6 is known as numbers. If you have the knowledge number 6, which is the knowledge of non-outflows or the skill of non-outflows, then that's what marks you as a sage from a Buddhist perspective. Yeah, it's what Shufu always refers to as without outflows. What does without outflows mean? It means that you are no longer generating new karma. So you're not doing anything to pull you back into rebirth. Okay, so that's the number 6, which marks Buddhist sages from everyone else. Okay, and you can only attain it through wisdom. All right. Okay. All right. So moving on to finish the Venerable Bakula's story, because we are towards the end. He says, this is a commentary. So the commentary says, since gifts as small as those of Bakula and Koti Vimsa, who is Venerable Koti Vimsa? He's the one that was born with hair on his feet and on the sole of his feet. Remember from 2 weeks ago? Okay. So the commentary says, since gifts as small as those produce such great fruits of retribution, the Sangha is called the best field of merit for the world. So the Sangha includes the Buddha as well. Buddha says, if you give something to the Buddha or to the Sangha, it makes no, it's the same. The merit is equal. And then it says, moreover, the practitioner should recollect the community or the Sangha. The Sangha are my true companions on the way to Nirvana. Join with it in the same discipline and the same vision, I should be joyful. Respect it wholeheartedly, follow it, and not be in opposition to it. Previously, I had bad people as my companions, family, slaves, etc. Okay, family doesn't mean they're bad companions. These are all just worldly. This line is describing our worldly relationships that how you say, that just creates more karma for further rebirth. So that's the distinction. It says they accompanied me in the 3 bad destinies. Then it says, but when you know the Sangha, it says you can say this. It says, now that I have noble people as companions, I go in safety to Nirvana. The Buddha is like the king of physicians. The Dharma is like good medicine, and the Sangha is like a nurse. I must obtain pure discipline and right thought. I must undergo the medication prescribed by the Buddha. We'll come to this in a later slide. Says the Sangha is the sole means for me to cut through the sickness of the bonds. It is my nurse. This is why it is necessary to recollect the Sangha. So the Sangha is like the nurse. Okay. Says furthermore, the Sangha has immense perfections of discipline, concentration, and wisdom, and the depth of its virtues cannot be plumbed. Then there's a verse section. It says, the person who loves and honors the Buddha must also love and honor the Sangha. There can be no distinction, for both are equally jewels. The learned, the virtuous, the sages, and the Dyayin are people who practice meditation, all enter into the ranks of the Sangha like the 10,000 rivers flowing into the sea. Just as all the plants and the medicinal herbs grow on the Himalaya, just as the 100 grains and all the bushes grow on the earth, so all good people are found in the ranks of the Sangha. And this is the last slide that we have on the practice known as mindfulness or recollection of the Sangha. Okay. Anyone knows what I'm going to ask again?
Doctor,
Yes.
I want to just, I don't know if I heard this right, but the takeaway from this story to me is that the Sangha, I mean, are the few of blessings, right? So that we should give to the blessings, right? That's what this story is all about, right?
Yes, you could say that. Yeah, the principle is that in this world, when it comes to if you want to know out of the acts of generosity that someone can do, which will generate the highest blessings, that's what it's saying.
Meaning, I mean, okay, meaning that, we shouldn't ignore, I mean, these opportunities to give to the Sangha. Is that a good, like, conclusion? I mean, to make?
Yeah, definitely. As Buddhists, if you look at the sutras that the Buddha spoke for lay people who were not monks and were not able to spend a lot of time studying and meditating, generosity is the main practice for lay people. It is through generosity that you plant the necessary seeds of karma to end up like Venerable Bakula, for example. Is that it, Ron?
Yes, Pastor. Sorry, I was writing.
Okay.
I was just taking.
All right. Okay, so what do we have next? We have mindfulness of virtue. I wasn't going to include this because I thought we've been spending a bit of time in generating loving kindness for oneself. But I thought I would because it's very interesting. It's very useful. Mindfulness of virtue is really important because we are learning about how to develop loving kindness for ourselves. And the practice of loving kindness, if we can develop it for ourselves, it is one of the most important foundations that we can create for our Buddhist practice. If we do not have loving kindness as the foundation that underlines everything that we do, for example, like giving or generosity, in holding the precepts as well, then could say that we are practicing with wrong view or wrong intention, and I will come to that. Okay, so it's kind of like we do everything like a Buddhist does, but our compass is pointing away from north. And the further we practice, the further we walk away. Although on the surface, it seems as if we are doing the same practices. So, for example, Venerable Bakula, when he cured the Buddha of his illness, the Buddha Anomadasi, if I got that correctly. Imagine if he had wrong intention. He cured the Buddha, but in his heart, he said, "Oh, after I cure the Buddha, I'm going to ask him for money or ask him for a favor," something like that. You do the same actions, but your intention is different. Then the results that you get will be very different as well. Okay, so Ron, are you going to say something? If not, I'm going to mute you.
Oh, no, yeah, please do.
Okay, mute. All right, so that's why we're going to go through mindfulness of virtue. What virtue? Our own virtue. So it says, the layman, all of you all, should recollect your virtue in the form of layman's virtue, while a monastic should recollect them in the form of the monastic virtues. What are virtues? Precepts. Okay, what you should do and what you should not do. The virtues are liberating since they free one from the slavery of craving. They are praised by the sages. They are conducive to concentration since they conduce to excess concentration and absorption concentration, or to path concentration and fruition concentration. These are different levels of concentration that, for example, excess concentration is before you are concentrated, but you are not fully absorbed yet, which is the next stage called absorption concentration on your topic. Okay, all right. So in beginning this practice, what practice? Being mindful of your own goodness, which is in holding the precepts. It says the practitioner recollects three kinds of virtue. You can also substitute the word virtue for morality. Some people translate it as morality. The first one is the virtue of precepts. The second is the virtue of the meditative absorptions. And the third one is known as pure virtue. Why is the third one pure virtue? Because the first two are known as impure virtue. But it's not impure as in bad or no good. It is just impure because it still has outflows. All right. So when we hold precepts, because we are holding precepts through our skandhas, our conscious mind and our body, we can't help but generate outflows as we hold the precepts. Same thing as when we enter the what is known as the meditative absorptions. Although the dhyanas are known as pure states, but in the beginning stages, we still have outflows because we still, we are not free from our skandhas yet. So it's only at number 3 that you are able to practice with the outflows. Okay, then that's known as pure. So you're not generating any more karma to bring you back to rebirth. So that's what it means by impure. It doesn't mean like bad or something. It just means that there's still karma being generated. So it says, having practiced all 3, then he recollects only the pure virtue. This is when you progress on the path. Okay. So it says pure virtues of 3 kinds. Okay, as far as we are concerned. Okay. This is where we begin. We begin with right speech, right action, and right livelihood. Okay, what is this? I'll show you a slide real quickly and then I'll go back to the previous slide. Right speech, right action, and right livelihood is part of the Noble Eightfold Path. Okay, what's the Noble Eightfold Path? You begin with right view or right understanding. And then from right understanding, you have right intention. Right intention is the reason you do something. Okay, and then in your speech, your action, and the way you earn your livelihood, you do it according to the precepts. So the first 2 are known as wisdom, and then the second 3, right speech, right action, right livelihood. That means everything we do with our body and our mouth, we do according to the precepts. And then number 6, 7, and 8, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration has to do with concentration or samadhi. So it is known as, usually is known as precepts, samadhi, then wisdom. But when it comes to the Noble Eightfold Path, if you don't understand what you're doing, you do everything wrong. So we begin with wisdom first. And this wisdom is known as mundane wisdom, because we get it from reading the sutras, we get it from listening to sutra lectures, we get it from discussing the Dharma and understanding the Dharma. Then we put it into correct practice. Then, as we go through the different stages of concentration, then we end up with transcendental wisdom. Okay, all right, so going back to the previous slide for right speech, right action, and right livelihood, I think most of you all know this, so I'll just run through it. Right speech is you abstain from lying, so no false speech. You abstain from slanderous speech, so you don't go and spread gossip, whether true or untrue. You don't paint people in a bad light. Okay. Number 3 is harsh speech. That means you don't use your words to cause distress to anyone or to scold people. And number 4 is abstaining from idle chatter. What is idle chatter? I mean, you talk about things that are not useful at all, just wasting time, just to pass the time. That's known as idle chatter. So we move to the next, number 2, right action. What is right action? Okay, right. The first one is no harming. So you abstain from taking life or to harm any living being with your body, okay, or to the extent of encouraging others to do so. You don't do that as well. The second one is no stealing, so you don't take what is not given. And number 3 is you abstain from sexual misconduct. So if you're married, that's it. You don't mess around. Other people are married, you don't mess around with them. And there are other ways of explaining sexual misconduct as well. And then number 3 is light livelihood, which is how you earn a living. So if you have taken the Bodhisattva precepts, you will be very familiar with this. Basically, what it says in Buddhism, in right livelihood, is not dealing in weapons or not dealing in anything that that will be used to harm other living beings. So, for example, if you sell knives, like kitchen knives, that's okay, because it's the purpose is different. It can be used to harm, but your intention is not that. And how you say, people need kitchen knives for cooking. Only the truly evil will buy a kitchen knife as a tool to harm others, so it's not your fault. But weapons are a different thing. Weapons are made for only one purpose, which is to harm others. So right livelihood means you don't deal in weapons in any way or form. Okay, you don't deal in living beings. For example, you don't raise animals for food. You don't deal in anything that has to do with it's called slave. You don't deal in slaves, but basically you don't oppress people. Okay, you're not involved in anything that oppresses people. That includes prostitution. You're not in anything that has to do with the slaughter of animals. So raising animals and slaughtering of animals. You don't deal in poisons. Okay, you don't deal in intoxicants, and you don't deal in anything that has to do with lying to people, fooling them. So it's like deceit, treachery, trickery, and also fortune telling. That's not considered right livelihood. Yeah, and if you look at the Thai tradition, they call it rightness or righteousness regarding your actions, righteousness regarding other living beings, and righteousness regarding objects. So that's a very elegant way to understand right livelihood.
Well, sure.
Yes, Ron.
Can I get a clarification? So you would, like, for example, if you invest in stocks, you wouldn't invest in a stock of a company that makes alcohol, then, right? Like beer or other spirits that can be drunk.
Yes. Yeah. Preferably not. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. But it's okay in Buddhism. Okay, all these things that we're learning, if you force other people to do it, that's oppression as well. So Buddhism is not about you cannot do this or you cannot do that or you have to do this or you have to do that. It's about when you are ready and you're interested to develop yourself. These are the things that you might be interested in doing. It's more that kind of attitude. Yeah, it's not to say, oh, we take this and we expect others to do the same things. No, it doesn't work that way. You have to want to do it willingly. So when for someone who understands, for example, who comes across this part of the Dharma, when they're ready, then they say, oh, I actually hold stocks in companies such as this. I'm happy now. I'm ready to not invest in these companies anymore. Yeah, so it doesn't cause them any affliction. But you can't go to another person and say, oh, you cannot do this or you cannot do that, because they may not feel the same way. Okay? Does that answer your question, Ron?
Yes, yes. And
Okay.
does that also, like, when you do it, when you, let's say you do buy stocks in this, or you are creating karma for yourself, right? I mean, seeds of karma, aren't you? I mean,
Okay, so there's this story where I don't remember the exact specifics of the story, but I remember the principles. So what happened was this. There was this landowner, and he had his workers who he wanted to farm the land. So he had his workers till and plow the land. So as this was being done, there were a lot of small creatures being killed. And I think someone had a question. If I can find the exact source of the story, I'll share it one day. But for now, I'm just recounting the principle. So someone had a question. It says, who bears the karma of having all those creatures die? And the answer was that the landowner bears the karma, because he's the one who owns the land. He's the one who has the idea of using the land for that reason, and then he directs his workers to do those things. So the karma is also incurred by him. Yeah. So that's one story that I remember. Yeah. As to say, like, investing in a company and you're not directly responsible, I think that then comes back to a person's intentions. So you can't, it's not like a blanket rule, like you say, oh, you just because you invest in a company that does this, you generate bad karma. You can't really say that without knowing the intention. So for someone who doesn't know, and they invest purely for financial reasons, and then later they find out, oh, Buddhists don't do that, buy for those reasons, and I think that's a good reason, and then you stop. Then you don't have to worry about the past, because as soon as you find out and you stop, that's what when the Buddha taught us about cause and effect, the Buddha says that's the most important thing. When you realize it's wrong and then you stop, then you don't have to worry about the past. But if someone knows that this company or the products of the company is harming a lot of people, and they don't care, and they still invest because they say the returns I'm going to get is very high, I don't know whether you have any for what kind of karma you accrue from the harming effects of the company's products. I don't know about that, but what I do know is that if you have that kind of attitude of being heedless or careless or ignoring your moral compass, you know that it's not good, but you still do it anyway. That doesn't speak much about that person's ability to do other things as well. Yeah. Okay. But as to whether the karma is direct or indirect or what they can get, that one is very hard to say. Yeah. All right. Okay. Moving on. What time is it? Oh, it's almost time. Okay. Moving on. In terms of mindfulness of virtue, and this is very interesting because for many, many years, Shufu would talk about this and I had no idea what was going on. This is from the Mahaprajna Paramita Shastra. It says at the beginning, the practitioner obtains the impure good roots called heat, summit, and patience, which are developed in beginning, intermediate, and final minds. When he penetrates into the pure mind, constituting the first moment of the path of seeing, that means wisdom. Seeing him refers to wisdom. Excuse me. He is perfected quickly in one instant. Here there is no distinction between initial, intermediate, and final minds. So there's just a few more slides to go. So I'm going to run through the time. We have a few minutes left. I'm going to run through it. So for many years, Shofu will talk about heat, reaching the summit, and having patience to get through it. And I never knew what was going on. I mean, Shofu would explain what happens during these stages. But because I will only read it from the commentaries and I wasn't there when Shofu was teaching, I didn't really have a full understanding. Yeah, until now. So that's why I'm excited to share this with you all. I'll come to that. Okay, I have 1 or 2 more slides to go, then we'll come to that. It says the virtue of precepts prevents the sins and corruption from gaining power. What are sins and corruptions? Everything that we do based on the 3 poisons of greed, anger, and ignorance. So it says the virtue of samadhi and concentration dissipates all the negative emotions. Why? When one has attained the inner happiness of the meditative stabilizations, that means when you are concentrated and you enter into the dhyana, you generate a happiness or joy that is literally out of this world because nothing in this world can provide you with that kind of happiness. So it's one no longer seeks worldly happiness because anything else is pills in comparison. So pure virtue uproots the roots of unwholesome or sins and negative emotions or the afflictions. That's why in the temple when we eat in our chanting, the meal offering chanting, we talk about may all beings enjoy dhyana bliss for food. This is what it refers to. Okay. So there was an analogy earlier, that a metaphor earlier that I said I will come to. What is the metaphor? In terms of mindfulness, of the Sangha and the virtue of in terms of the mindfulness that we have been studying, of mindfulness of the Buddha, mindfulness of the Dharma, mindfulness of the Sangha, and mindfulness of our own virtue, the metaphor used is this. Who is the Buddha? The Buddha is the king of physicians. He's the doctor. Okay, that's why Medicine Master Buddha has his title. And then what is the Dharma? The Dharma is the medicine that the Buddha prescribes. What is the Sangha? The Sangha is the nurse. You rely on the nurse to administer or to give you the medicine. For example, if you go to a hospital and you need a injection, you don't inject yourself. You get a qualified nurse to inject it into you, right? Okay. And what is virtue? Virtue is you volunteering to undergo what you need to undergo. The test, the diet or the medicine to take, the exercise that you need. That's virtue. Okay. So the practitioner says to himself, if I do not fall in line with this obligation, the 3 jewels will be of no use to me. If the guide shows a good path, but the traveler does not use it, that is not the fault of the guide. This is why I should recollect morality. So this is where virtue falls in terms of the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha, and yourself. Okay? So if you don't what happens if you don't subject yourself to the medicine? Well, you will forever suffer the illness that is known as samsara, the afflictions that, if you look at the state of the world right now, the endless afflictions, that's what we open ourselves up to. Okay? So it says, furthermore, virtue is a support of all good dharmas. So precepts is a support of all good dharmas. Just as the 100 grains and the medicinal plants grow depending on the earth, in the same way, observing pure precepts produces great profound concentrations and the knowledge of the true nature. It is also the foremost gate for monastics, the stick on which all monastics lean for support, the primary cause and condition of reaching nirvana. As it is said, thanks to keeping morality, the mind is free of regret, and finally deliverance or nirvana is attained. So that's very important to understand the cause and effect of holding precepts. Okay, as we hold precepts, as we practice to purify our actions and our thoughts and our speech, what happens is that our mind gets more and more relaxed because we do less and less things that make us regret our actions. So if you look at it from that point of view, the precepts are actually very psychological, although they affect the body. But the purpose of the precepts is so that the mind can relax and that you can meditate or recite the Buddha's name. Okay. So this is what Shufu has to say. And again, when for many years, I think more than 20 years of learning what Shufu has to say about this, I never quite understood what they all meant. Okay, these are known as the 4 aids to penetration or the 4 aiding practices. And there's a Sanskrit, I included the Sanskrit term if you want to look it up. So this is what Shufu says in the book called The Treasure Trove. Shufu says in heat, he says when you start attaining some skill from your practice and chant meditation, your body will experience a sensation of heat. It will be filled with heat. This is your chi moving around. Says this heat melts all illnesses away. Illnesses meaning not, it might be physical illness, because when you get really concentrated, even though you're sick, you don't feel like you're sick. You know you're sick, but you don't feel like you're sick. It's very weird. But the illness specifically refers to afflictions, the things that make us afflicted. Okay, it says also, it says also your afflictions. It is like a spring sun which melts away the ice. The heat is young and is very healthy and vital. So heat is the first stage. When this heat circulates around your body and rises to the top of your head so that you feel the heat on the summit of your head at all times, that is the next state called summit. Okay, all right. So what makes this, what I discovered about these 4 aiding practices is that it makes all the difference between, or it marks the transition of a mundane person becoming a sage. So if you want to know how you become a sage, for example, like a first stage arhat, stream enterer, this is what you kind of have to go through. Okay, so after you have heat and you don't feel cold, for example, in CDTB, the City of 10,000 Buddhas, and it's winter and it's really, really cold, and you're in a Chan hall meditating with the monks, and we don't have any heat, so it's very, very cold. If you put your feet in full lotus, if you sit in the full lotus position, you don't feel the cold. I'm not sure about other people. I think everyone feels that. That's something I never really asked other people. But yes, when you maybe for everyone, when you sit in full lotus, you don't feel the cold, although you are right in the middle of winter in an unheated room. Yeah.
Oh, sure.
Yes, Ron.
May I ask? I'm trying to be respectful, but I would hope that I'm trying to ask that perhaps you these four aiding practices. Perhaps you should leave that for the next class because it's really important for all of us who are cultivators to really understand this, and rather than go through it quickly, we might miss. I mean, we don't have our concentration, very.
Okay.
You go too fast.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Thanks, Ron. Yeah. No, you're not being disrespectful. Actually, I am, because I'm taking up too much time. It's past time already. I thought I could finish by then. But yeah. Okay. Thanks, Ron. So we will keep this for next week. And anyone has anything else they want to add or ask? I'm not going to answer. I'm going to answer next week. Anyone? No? Okay, so we'll revisit this next week. Okay, what is known as the four aiding practices. Then maybe I can find more information about what Shufu has to say about this. Yeah. Okay, let me get the transference. Okay, what you see on your screen right now is in the city of 10,000 Buddhas. This is where the monks live. Okay, we don't live like this. This is because there are four. You could say there are four wings that form a square with a courtyard in the middle. So there are four wings. Monks live in two wings, which are doubles. They are all double stories. So monks live in two wings. This particular wing is unused. Yeah, so it has all the old things that came with the property when they bought over the city of 10,000 Buddhas. Yeah, so we don't live, don't live like this. This is the third wing that is, it's not even a storeroom. It's just, it's just a wing that has been in this state for, I think, the last maybe 30 years because we don't need the space. Yeah. Okay. There's the dedication. Okay. Yeah. So don't think that monks live like this. No, we don't. our place is actually very clean. Yeah. Okay. Dedication of merit. May every living being, our minds as one and radiant with light, share the fruits of peace with hearts of goodness, luminous and bright. If people hear and see how hands and hearts can find in giving unity, may our minds awake to great compassion, wisdom, and to joy. May kindness find reward. May all who sorrow leave our grief and pain. May this boundless light dispel the darkness of our endless night. Because our hearts are one, this world of pain turns into paradise. May all become compassionate and wise. May all become compassionate and wise. Okay, let's do 3 bows to the Buddha. Second bow. Third bow. Half bow. Bowing in respect to the Honorable Master. Second bow. Third bow. Half bow. Okay, everyone, we'll see you next week. I'm Thank
you, Dharma Master.